The lie we were born into. You were born into a lie. Not because your parents meant to deceive you. Not because society is evil. But because the world you entered was already asleep when you got here. From the moment you could walk, talk, and understand language, the script of your life began to be written by people who didn't know who they were either. You were told what to do, what to chase, what success looks like, what failure means. You were handed a checklist: go to school, get good grades, be polite, get a job, save some money, buy a house, retire. No one ever asked you, what makes your soul come alive? No one ever said, here's how to listen to the voice inside of you. No one prepared you for the pain of living a life that doesn't feel like yours. And now here you are, scrolling through videos like this, hoping for a spark, hoping that something, anything, will finally make you feel awake. Let me tell you something they never said out loud. Most people aren't really living. They're surviving, drifting, following rules that were made for machines, not human beings with hearts and fire and dreams. And the worst part? They pass this down, generation after generation, like it's the truth. But deep down, you've always known something was off. Haven't you? You felt the emptiness in routines that are supposed to be normal. You've tasted the hollowness of goals that look shiny on the outside, but feel meaningless inside. You've questioned whether this is all there is, the 9 to 5, the weekends, the endless scrolling, the comparison game, the quiet desperation no one talks about. And still, you try to keep smiling. Because no one wants to hear you say, I don't know who I am anymore. But I'll say it for you. You don't know who you are, not because you're broken, but because no one gave you the tools to remember. Open book story interlude. The man who forgot his name. There's an old story about a man who lived in a village where everyone wore masks. The moment he was born, they gave him one too. A bright, polished mask with a wide smile and eyes that didn't blink. He grew up wearing it every day. At school, at dinner, at work, and everyone praised him. Such a nice face. Such a polite man. Such a perfect life. But every night, he would go home, shut the door, and remove the mask. And underneath was nothing. A blank face. No expression. No emotion. No memory of what he looked like before the mask was given. Years passed. His mask cracked. His back bent. His energy faded. And one day, standing at the mirror, he whispered, I don't remember who I was. That story isn't about someone else. It's about you. It's about us. Wearing masks for so long we forget we're even wearing them. Police car light wake-up moment. The real enemy. Here's the hard truth. No one is coming to wake you up. No teacher. No boss. No friend. No motivational guru. Because most people are too busy being asleep themselves. They'll tell you to be realistic. To stop dreaming so big. To follow the system. But what they're really saying is, stay like us. Don't make us uncomfortable by changing. The real enemy isn't laziness. It's numbness. The slow, silent decay of your inner fire. And every time you ignore your instincts, every time you silence your truth to please others, every time you swallow your pain instead of expressing it, a piece of you disappears. And you wonder why you feel tired all the time, why your motivation is dead, why your life feels like a loop instead of a journey. It's because you're living a lie. And deep down, you know it. Collision, the shift begins, but here's the beautiful part. The truth isn't here to hurt you. It's here to set you free. You don't have to keep pretending. You don't have to keep performing. You don't have to wear a mask that doesn't fit anymore. The moment you admit that something's wrong, the healing begins. The moment you question everything you've been told, the transformation starts. You weren't born to be a slave to schedules or opinions or fear. You were born to burn, to rise, to become something so honest and real that the world can't look away. But no one can do that for you. You have to want it enough to wake up. And once you do, the lie begins to crumble, and the real story of your life begins. Let me ask you something. Can you remember the first time you stopped being yourself? It wasn't loud. There was no warning. No dramatic scene where someone shouted, "This is where your soul ends." It happened quietly. Maybe it was when you were 5 and you were told, "Don't be so sensitive." Maybe it was when you got laughed at for dancing, or drawing, or dreaming too big. Maybe it was when you tried to speak your truth and someone older, stronger, or colder made you feel small for it. So, you made a decision, not with words, but with your heart. Okay, I won't show that part of me again. That moment, that's when the forgetting began. Open book real story reflection. The boy who stopped singing. There was once a boy who loved to sing. He sang in the shower, on the way to school, while staring out the window. Not because he wanted to be famous, but because it made him feel alive. One day, while humming during class, the teacher snapped, "This is not the time for noise. Be quiet." Everyone laughed. And for the first time, he felt shame instead of joy. So he stopped singing. The world clapped because he matured. But something inside him died. Years later, he couldn't remember why life felt so empty. Until one day, walking alone in a park, he heard a child singing, freely, loudly, without fear. He stopped in his tracks. Tears came, because in that voice, he remembered the part of himself he had buried. That's what happens to all of us. We silence our soul for approval, and we lose the sound of who we really are. Light bulb: why this happens to everyone. The truth no one told you is this. You were conditioned to forget who you are so you could fit into a world that's forgotten itself. The education system wasn't designed to ignite your genius. It was built to create order. Most parents didn't raise you with emotional freedom. They taught you survival. Society didn't teach you to think. It taught you to obey. And here's the hardest part. Even love, at times, came with conditions. If you behave, we'll love you. If you make us proud, you'll be accepted. If you don't cause trouble, you'll be praised. So you learn to twist and bend yourself into versions that would be easier for others to like. But in the process, you lost the version that you liked the most. Hold a mask became your identity by the time you hit your 20s. The mask isn't just something you wear. It becomes who you think you are. You build a life around it. Your job, your friends, your relationships. You succeed, maybe even make money. But somewhere deep inside, a voice keeps whispering, "This isn't it." So you try to silence it. With more noise, more hustle, more distractions. Work harder, stay busy, keep scrolling. Because stopping means you'd have to face the truth. You don't really know who you are. You only know who you were trained to be. And that realization is terrifying. But do you want to know what's even more terrifying? Never finding out. Brain the war inside you. This is the war no one sees. It's not fought with weapons or arguments. It's fought every time you say yes when you mean no. Every time you stay when your soul is screaming to leave. Every time you betray your gut for comfort or approval. You feel tired, not just physically, but spiritually. Like your heart is wearing weights. And still you smile. Because that's what you were taught. But inside, your real self is pounding on the walls. Waiting, begging, pleading to be let out. Compass the truth. You were never meant to be this small. You weren't meant to shrink. You weren't meant to shrink your voice so someone else could be comfortable. Shrink your dreams because someone else gave up on theirs. Shrink your soul to fit into someone else's version of normal. You were meant to burn, to speak, to cry, to live with such intensity and truth that people either step into the fire with you or run from the heat. The hard truth is this: the life you were trained to live is not the one you were born to live. And no one's going to come and unlock the door for you. That's your job now. Unlock the beginning of remembering. So how do you start remembering who you are? Not by changing everything overnight. Not by throwing away your whole life. But by becoming honest. Start small. Sit with yourself in silence. Without a screen. Without a voice telling you what to do. Ask yourself, what have I been pretending not to know? Feel the grief. Feel the truth. Don't run from it. Because in that silence, you will start to hear something. A whisper. A memory. A flicker of the person you were before the world told you who to be. And that's where we'll go next. By now, you're probably feeling something stirring inside you. A faint flame that was once a wildfire. And it's not your imagination. You're not being dramatic. You're not too sensitive. You're waking up. And as you begin to open your eyes, one truth becomes painfully clear. This world is designed to keep you asleep. Not by accident. Not by conspiracy. But by momentum. We live inside systems built for control, not connection. Briefcase: the schooling trap. Let's start with school, where the conditioning begins. Did you ever stop to wonder why school looks the way it does? Rows of desks, bells that ring on the hour, permission to speak, standardized tests, reward for obedience, punishment for curiosity. From age 5, you were trained to sit down, follow instructions, regurgitate information, and not question the system. Your worth was measured by grades, not by how deeply you think, how you treat others, or how much you love. Creativity wasn't nurtured. It was extra credit. Silence wasn't peace. It was discipline. Expression wasn't freedom. It was disruption. The goal wasn't to awaken your genius. It was to make you manageable. And by the time you graduated, you had learned to fear failure more than you loved learning. Necktie the corporate illusion, then comes the job, the adult version of school. Except now, your survival depends on it. You sit in front of a screen for 8 to 10 hours a day. You build someone else's dream. You get paid just enough to keep coming back, but never enough to buy your freedom. And they call that a career. You're told, work hard and you'll be rewarded. But most people work their entire lives and die with their dreams still inside them. You were meant for purpose, but you were trained for productivity. There's a difference. One feeds your soul. The other drains it and sells it back to you in the form of luxury, vacations, and status symbols. Mobile phone, the digital sedation, and when you try to rest, to unplug, to breathe, you're handed a phone, an endless scroll, a stream of images telling you who to be, what to buy, how to look, what to chase. It's not entertainment. It's escape. The algorithms don't care about your healing. They care about your attention. And if they can keep you angry, insecure, or comparing, they win. You're not the customer. You're the product. And they feed you content that keeps you numb, so you don't have to face your pain. So you don't question the system. So you don't ask, is this what I was born for? Because the moment you start asking that, the whole illusion begins to shake. Syringe addicted to numbness. So what happens when all these systems stack up? You become addicted, not to drugs, not to alcohol, not to substances. You become addicted to numbness, to being just busy enough not to feel, just entertained enough not to think, just tired enough not to change. We chase dopamine hits instead of meaning, notifications instead of connection, success instead of purpose. And slowly, you start to lose your capacity to feel anything deeply at all. You laugh, but it's hollow. You cry, but it's numb. You're alive, but it feels like watching a movie of someone else's life. This is what the world calls normal, but that's not normal. That's emotional death. Brain the lie of success. And what about success? Here's the biggest lie. If you just work hard enough, everything will be okay. Really? Then why are the richest people still miserable? Why are so many successful lives filled with depression, anxiety, and quiet desperation? Because success without self is just another cage. Fancier, shinier, but still a cage. True success isn't about what you earn. It's about what you become. It's about waking up, not just climbing up. It's about peace, not performance. It's about knowing who you are, not just what you do. Fire the awakening starts with awareness, so how do you fight back? How do you break the spell? Not with rebellion, not with rage, with awareness. You begin by seeing the system for what it is, not to hate it, but to stop letting it define you. You question what you've accepted. You pause before you consume. You unplug not to escape, but to feel again. You ask yourself, do I actually want this life I'm chasing? Who gave me this definition of success? What am I trading for this version of safety? And when the answers make you uncomfortable, good. That means you're waking up. Candle the return to self. Here's the truth. You were not born to fit in. You were born to return to yourself, to remember the voice before the noise, to come back to the feeling before the filters, to reclaim your life from the systems that stole it. It won't be easy. There will be resistance. People will think you're crazy. They'll say, you've changed. And you'll say, yes, I've finally remembered who I was. That's when real life begins. So, you've woken up. You've started to see the systems. You've begun to feel the ache of having lived a life that wasn't fully yours. But now comes the hardest part. Because once the old lies fall away, there's silence. And in that silence, a question rises from deep inside you. Now what? The answer isn't found in a book. It isn't in a podcast or a course. It's already inside you, buried under years of pain, years of pretending, years of surviving. This is where the healing begins. Adhesive bandage. You can't fix what you won't feel. Most people never heal. Not because they're weak, but because they never stop long enough to feel the wound. They keep running. More goals, more distractions, more noise. But healing isn't in running. It's in stopping. Stopping long enough to sit with the parts of yourself you've avoided. The grief, the shame, the memories that haunt you when the room is quiet. This is the hard truth no one told you. You cannot become who you truly are without grieving who you pretended to be. Broken heart, the weight of unprocessed pain. Most of the pain you carry didn't come from your choices. It came from what was done to you when you had no choice. Maybe it was the parent who never said, "I'm proud of you." The friend who betrayed you when you needed them most. The world that taught you to toughen up instead of open up. You didn't ask for that pain, but you learned to carry it anyway. And here's the thing. Pain that isn't processed doesn't disappear, it hides. It shows up as overthinking, as self-sabotage, as anxiety, addiction, control. You think you're broken. You're not. You're just carrying weight that was never yours to hold. Seedling healing is not becoming someone new. It's remembering who you were. There's this lie in self-help culture that healing is about becoming your best self. But that's only half true. Healing is not about becoming someone new. It's about returning to the person you were before the world broke you. The kid who laughed without fear. The teen who dreamed without limits. The soul who spoke the truth before being told to shut up. You don't need to add more. You need to unlearn what buried you. You are not too much. You were never not enough. You were just too real for a world addicted to fakeness. Counterclockwise arrows button. What healing actually looks like. Healing is not pretty. It's not Instagrammable. It's crying for no reason. It's canceling plans to protect your peace. It's saying no without feeling guilty. It's losing people who only love the mask. Healing is writing letters you'll never send, screaming into pillows, hugging your inner child, apologizing to yourself, learning to sit in discomfort instead of fixing it. It's ugly, raw, lonely, and it's the most courageous thing you'll ever do. Because when you heal, you stop bleeding on people who didn't cut you. You stop needing validation from the same systems that once rejected you. You become you. The inner child still waiting. There's a version of you, a little you, still waiting. Not for money, not for status, but for you to finally say, "I see you. I believe you. I'm sorry no one protected you back then, but I will now." Your inner child doesn't need fixing. They need safety. And once they feel it, they'll come back to life. They'll remind you how to play, how to laugh, how to trust your gut, how to cry without shame, how to live from the heart instead of the wound. That's the healing we need, not just for us, but for the generations after us. Person in lotus position, stop looking outside. Start listening inside. Everyone's searching for answers outside, the right partner, the perfect job, the next breakthrough. But here's the truth no one told you. No one's coming to save you. Not because you're unworthy, but because you don't need saving. You need remembering. Everything you're searching for is already inside you, but you'll never hear it until you quiet the noise. Meditation isn't trendy, it's survival. Journaling isn't cute, it's rebellion. Rest isn't lazy, it's recovery. Every quiet moment is a step closer to your real self. So stop escaping. Sit still and listen. You'll be amazed at what comes up. Light bulb, what will happen when you start healing? When you start healing, you'll lose people, but you'll find yourself. You'll be misunderstood, but you'll feel peace. You'll stop being invited to some rooms, but you'll build better ones. You'll cry more, but you'll fake less. You'll feel more lost at first, but eventually, you'll be more found than ever before. Because the truth is, you can't build a meaningful life on top of a broken identity. So tear it down, gently, consciously, lovingly, piece by piece, layer by layer, and rebuild with truth. You've faced the lies. You've felt the pain. You've started healing. Now comes the most sacred part of your journey, becoming who you were always meant to be. Not a version edited by fear, not a projection shaped by expectations, but the real, untamed, deeply alive you. This isn't about chasing a dream. It's about creating a life so aligned with your soul that you no longer need to escape it. Let's talk about how. Compass, your inner compass already knows the way. There's a compass inside you. It doesn't speak in logic. It doesn't care about shoulds. It doesn't follow trends or timelines. It speaks in feelings, in gut instincts, in quiet knowing. And it's been whispering to you for years. Every time your job drained you and you felt hollow. Every time you said yes when your whole body screamed no. Every time you laughed and remembered who you were. Every time you sat in silence and felt peace for no reason. That wasn't random. That was the real you, trying to get your attention. The question is, will you finally listen? Fire redefines success, or it will define you. Most people never build a true life because they're too busy chasing someone else's version of success. A bigger house, more followers, a six-figure income, looking like they've made it. But success without soul is a trap. It might impress others. It might fill your schedule. It might even pay your bills. But late at night, when no one's watching, you'll feel it, the ache of a misaligned life. So redefine success now, before it's too late. Ask yourself, what brings me alive, even if no one claps? What makes me peaceful, even if no one sees it? Who am I, without the titles, the roles, the masks? Then start building around that. Because if your definition of success doesn't include your mental health, your peace, your relationships, and your joy, it's time to rewrite the whole thing. Hammer and pick rebuild from the inside out. You can't build a solid life on a shaky foundation. That's why most people burn out. They chase external wins before doing internal work. Start inside. Brick build identity before goals. Brick build discipline before dreams. Brick build character before success. The truth is, a life that looks good but feels bad isn't success. A life that's slow but real is far richer than one that's fast but fake. Your healing becomes your blueprint. Your values become your compass. Your peace becomes your strategy. That's how real life is built. Candle create rituals, not just routines. Most people live in reaction. You're about to live in intention. Forget the hustle culture grind for a moment. Start with rituals, actions rooted in meaning. Sunrise, wake up early, not just for productivity, but to meet yourself in silence. Notebook, journal, not to fix yourself, but to understand yourself. Herb, take walks, not for steps, but for clarity. Open book, read, not for clout, but for growth. Routines keep you busy. Rituals keep you aligned. Build your life around what feeds your soul, not just your schedule. Globe showing Europe, Africa. Choose environment consciously. You can't become your best self in a toxic environment. Look around you. Who drains you? What triggers you? What habits are stealing your attention? Now ask, who inspires you? What spaces give you energy? What small changes can you make today? Because the truth is, you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your environment. If you're serious about changing your life, start by changing what you allow around you. Even if it means standing alone for a while. Brick by brick, your dream life isn't a single breakthrough. It's a million small, boring, beautiful decisions stacked together. Choosing rest over burnout. Choosing a workout over a scroll. Choosing honesty over pleasing. Choosing solitude over fake company. Choosing courage over comfort, again and again. The new you is not found. The new you is built. Quietly, daily, patiently, brick by brick. Brain, you'll be tested, let's be honest. The old life will try to pull you back. You'll have moments of doubt, nights of loneliness, temptations to numb again. That's normal. Growth is not a straight line. It's messy. And real transformation doesn't feel like a movie montage. It feels like crawling through the dark, 1 inch at a time. But every time you choose to keep going, you're reprogramming yourself. And eventually, you look around and realize, you didn't just change, you became. Sunrise, your life becomes the message the world doesn't need more perfect people. It needs more real people. People who healed, who broke cycles, who chose growth even when it hurt, who became the person they needed when they were younger. That can be you. And when it is, you don't even have to preach. Your life will say it for you. If you made it to the end of this series, you're not just watching a video anymore. You're rewriting your life. I'm ready to build the life I was born to live. Pushpin, save this video. Share it. Rewatch it when you forget. Bell, subscribe to MindFire Motivation, where we don't just inspire you. We walk with you through the hard truth and into the real you. You were never broken. You were buried. But now you rise.